seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, guys? It's Cluster here. Timmy here, back with another video. And for today's video, we're gonna be doing an internal debate about Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud and who would really fit better in Houston, who's the better prospect, and just things of that nature. So first off, I'm gonna start off like from stats about both players. Start off with Bryce Young at first. So for this season's stats, he had 3,328 total passing yards, and that was 21st in all of America in terms of college. And he had 32 passing touchdowns. That was tied for 10th. 5 interceptions. That was tied for 16th. And a QBR of 86.2. Stroud had 3,688, which was 13th for the nation. 41 touchdowns, which was second for the nation. That's pretty damn good. He had 6 interceptions, which was tied for 35th. And a QBR of 88.9. So, Juan, you're going to be doing Bryce Young and why you prefer him over CJ Stroud. So, start us off.
Okay, perfect. So, whenever you look at Bryce Young, the first thing that jumps out to you is that game IQ. Obviously, this year was a bit of a down year for Alabama as a college program, but the one constant was that Bryce Young was always showing up when they needed him to. People are going to say that his pocket was clean the entire year, and it was actually a pretty good offensive line this year for Alabama, but he was still able to find ways out of trouble when he did find trouble, like going out of the pocket. And I feel like that's his best part of his game. Definitely is being able to get out of the pocket and making plays that way. Also being able to scramble. I mean, the prototypical quarterback now needs to have some sense of rushing just because some plays will collapse just by how good defenses are nowadays. So you really need to have that QB that can be an extra man on the field whenever you need him to. Tangibles, speed, arm power is there, but he's just a well-rounded prospect. He's not someone that I think will be on the bench for the Texans next year. I feel like he's an upgrade from Davis Mills without even really doing anything at NFL level. That just shows how good he is right now. Of course, with Alabama, great team. But I don't know. It's just this year, I feel like he's the guy. I don't feel like we have to wait next year or a year after that to get a guy because he looks like he's him. I'm not gonna lie to you. He has the speed, he has the power. He can do anything he wants to on the football field if he keeps developing. Now, problems with the game, obviously, I feel like the biggest concern would be his size. He is a little bit undersized for a quarterback. And the reason why I think that's a problem is because concussions, hard hits. So you want your quarterback to be healthy the entire year. And I feel like that's actually one thing that Davis Mills was just really good at. His one thing that was really good at it was he was able to take hits, right? He was always able to come back from hits and, try his best. But with Bryce Young, I don't know if he'll be able to take too many hits from 200-pound defensive lineman, but that is something that we have to wait and see. Again, his evasiveness is really good, so it really just depends on how he adjusts. If he adjusts really well to the NFL level, then there's no reason to believe that he won't be able to adjust to bigger hits too. But also being confident, we need him to be confident, make those big throws he was making in college, be that one play touchdown guy when you need him to, which, I mean, it's a lot easier said than done, but he can do it. He has the arm power to do it. And I feel like the edge he has over CJ Stroud is just that reliability when it comes to making plays out of nowhere. CJ Stroud can do that in his own right, but CJ Stroud isn't as good as a runner as Bryce Young. But obviously, it just depends on adjustments. I mean, do you think that CJ Stroud is going to be a better NFL quarterback than Bryce Young? I don't know. We might not know for a while, but I do think that the safer option right now would be Bryce Young, just because maybe on an underwhelming Alabama team this year, he was still able to produce and almost get them to the college football playoffs again. So, what are your thoughts on CJ Stroud?
For me, I've been liking and watching CJ Stroud for almost 2 years now, over 2 years. I've really pretty much always liked him. I've always thought really highly of him. And I pretty much knew when he came out for the draft, he was going to end up being a top 10 draft pick. But what separates him from Bryce Young for me is he's a very underrated thrower with anticipation. I think we all know how good of a thrower Bryce Young is, whether that's anticipation throws over the middle, sideline throws, and whatnot. But I think CJ Stroud, he edges him out. I don't think by a little bit, but actually by a lot. When he actually puts his arm to a throw, he can put the ball anywhere on the sideline, over the middle of the field, 50 yards downfield almost. He can make any throw in the book. I know Bryce Young can as well, but Bryce Young may take him a second to maybe wind up as a little bit more, like a second extra to put an extra step into it. CJ Stroud, I feel like he can do it effortlessly. He can make any throw, pressure in his face. I mean, obviously Bryce Young can as well, but CJ Stroud is able to make every throw on the field, make it look effortlessly. You're not gonna have to put as much into it. And of course, his size. His size is really going to help him. And in terms of who's going to be the safer guy, I feel like personally it's going to be CJ Stroud. And when you talk about safeness, it's who's going to come into the league and who's going to be at least average. Who's going to be able to take the team, maybe be like a Derek Carr, who can come in here and at least almost be guaranteed to have that level of a play that Derek Carr could bring. And I feel like it's CJ Stroud. Bryce Young, there's a lot more things that can go wrong. And the things that can go wrong is obviously his size, his weight, height, and all of that. For me, I don't think he's going to have too much of an impact as people think. A lot of people are very low on Bryce, I guess, obviously because of his size, but I don't think it's going to impact him as much. But when you talk about safeness in a prospect, I think CJ Stroud is the more safe guy. He has more things that doesn't make you worry as much as Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young has the potential to be much more better than CJ Stroud if he can come into the NFL and be completely comfortable, be able to take some grown men hits, and be able to stay healthy while taking them. But CJ Stroud, I feel like he'll be that guy that's going to be almost guaranteed to at least be okay, at least be an average quarterback. One of my favorite things about him is he's not the most willing runner on the field, but when he needs to do it, he's gonna run. I mean, the Georgia game before that, we really didn't see him run almost at all outside of his freshman year. And his freshman year, when he was wearing number 14, I think it was like a 50-yard, 60-yard touchdown run, if not more. I want to say it was more, maybe like a 75 touchdown yard run, but something like that. But throughout his previous 2 seasons at Ohio State, he was a very unwilling runner. He didn't really have that many rushing yards, if any at all. I think he barely cracked 100 for the whole season, if he even got to that. But in the Georgia game, he really showed that he can. He really went out there and showed the critics, the NFL world, the media that, hey, I can run. I can create for myself. I can do the things that Bryce Young does. He showed that he's able to make some magic, able to escape tacklers, able to escape big old defensive linemen, able to escape Jalen Carter, who's going to be a top 3 pick, or at least a top 4 pick in this coming NFL draft. He was able to escape him, leave him in the dirt, and throw an absolute dime to Marvin Harrison Jr. multiple times, actually. So he did show he was able to do things like that. Some cons about him, I mean, he will throw up the ball, the prayer, if you will. Like, he'll just throw up the ball to anybody. I mean, really, at times, it's not a reoccurring thing as much as I guess. I mean, obviously, you don't want him to do that, but it's not a reoccurring thing when you watch him. He'll do it once in a while when there is pressure in his face, but he's not type of guy to do it over and over and over again and make the same mistake. I forgot who it was. I think it was the franchise guy on YouTube. He was breaking down some CJ Stroud film, and he found one mistake that he made in the Notre Dame game. I think it was the running back name. I don't know the running back's name. I think it starts with an M, something like that. He was on a wheel route, and CJ Stroud completely missed him. And a couple of weeks later, it was the same style of defense that he was playing against Notre Dame, and it was the same running back wheel route. And CJ Stroud did not hesitate to throw an absolute dart on the wheel route, and he hit the running back in stride for a touchdown. So, I mean, he's showing that he's willing to learn throughout the season goes. He's willing to watch film and see where things are. So he has shown that he's able to progress all of season. So it doesn't really, I guess, it doesn't tell me that he won't be able to do it in the NFL world. But yeah, that's just a little bit of why I really like CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I actually kind of want to add something to that. I remember the college football playoff this year, and everybody getting so hyped around CJ Stroud just because of his performance in that heartbreaking Ohio State loss for him against Georgia. I feel like that was his moment. Like, that's his moment to say, you know what, I'm not going to be playing another high competitive game, at least in that aspect, for a couple months. And this is the last you're going to see of me in like a pressure situation of that level. And some players live and die for those moments in the college football playoffs or in the Super Bowl. So you want to see from your starting quarterback in the future, whether it be in 2023 or 2024, to win big games already. I feel like that's an underrated kind of aspect that you have to consider. You want winners on your team. You want people that want to win and have won. Like, an analogy I would put is, somebody moving up through like a baseball system. You want people that win because they're used to winning and they know what it takes to win. And of course, he put his team in the best possible situation to win that game. His defense didn't, but he was doing everything possible because he wants to win. He knows how to win, and he has won. He just wasn't able to do it by himself in that moment. So I feel like there's really no wrong answer here. Now, me personally, I still believe Bryce Young is the guy, but I feel like that impressive college football playoff showing by CJ Stroud could flip some tables when it comes to picking a QB this year. But again, it just depends on what we see, in the first week of training camp or whatever. Just see who is going to be the one to adjust first, the fastest, because we know that both of them are going to get picked, barring an unforeseen, unpredictable, crisis happen. But hopefully, we get to see at least one of them in a Houston Texans uniform. I feel like that's almost for certain, but you never know until draft day. Any last thoughts?
I was gonna mention like who I think would fit better in Houston at first, and I think it's gonna be Bryce Young. I mean, I'm more in the middle. I'm not really like gonna sit here and act like Bryce Young isn't good. He's not gonna be good. I think he's gonna be very good. I'm more in the middle of the two. Like I don't really have a preference. CJ Stroud has been my guy, but like I wouldn't be mad if we take Bryce Young. And I do end up thinking that Bryce Young will be better in the league. And I do think he would fit better in Houston considering he's a guy that has that it factor. He's able to escape from the pocket. Pretty much everything you mentioned. He can escape from the pocket, make any throw, make those wow moments, make those, I guess, Deshaun like type of plays. I feel like that's a pretty similar comparison outside of size. I feel like that's like a Deshaun not bounce off of guys, but like be able to escape the pocket, run around guys, make magic out of nothing. And I feel like it's gonna be something that we're used to seeing with Deshaun, and it's gonna be something that we're gonna not take long to get used to with Bryce Young. And I think we're gonna love seeing that.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Other thing, I actually want to add one more thing. When it comes to CJ Stroud, I feel like if we had to take a look at all the prospects right now on the table, all the QB prospects, I feel like he takes a little bit out of each one. Like from Bryce Young, he has, some of the throwing power and the wow moments, you could say, at least from that college football playoff game, you could see that. The size bigger than Bryce Young, probably closer to like Will Levis level. That game IQ, it's almost in between. He's not the best in each intangible in this draft class, but he's definitely not the worst. He's up there, probably second to probably let's say Anthony Richards' speed. He's first, then Bryce Young, but then there's CJ Stroud. He's right there. So really, he's the most balanced. I feel like that's what I would say. Some people might say that's Will Levis just because of tools or whatever, but definitely the most balanced player right now in this draft class has to be CJ Stroud. But then again, balance can sometimes lead to mediocrity. I feel sometimes like since you're not the best at anything, but not the worst, you kind of get stuck in that middle ground. I feel like that could be his floor. But I do feel like Bryce Young, while he might have a smaller floor just because of possible injuries in the future, he definitely has the higher ceiling. Just because, like you said, those wow moments, the Deshaun Watson moments that make you think, wow, this is the guy. But really, there's just not much to say. I mean, we have to wait and see until draft day. But I do definitely think that either one of them will be a fit for the Texans. I mean, and hopefully we draft a wide receiver this draft. I mean, I don't have anything. I mean, there's a lot of prospects here. Pick from
Quentin Johnson.
yeah, he's my guy personally. Just height in general, powerful. He could be the better Nico Collins, but hopefully we get that new quarterback. We get him the guy. I'm actually the third. Hopefully he's able to turn out into a good player. And Brandon Cooks is probably going to leave, but you're going to need that quarterback to get some options. So we might not really even know until the beginning of the season. But I mean, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We covered everything in terms of like the quarterbacks, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Yeah, let me know what y'all guys think down below in the comments. Which guy would y'all prefer? Would it be Bryce Young? Would it be CJ Stroud? Who do y'all think would fit better for the Texans? Who do y'all think is gonna have the better careers? Do you think any of the guys can be top 10 or like maybe like around that range? But yeah, it's been Clutch City Entertainment, and I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.